All right, you and I are starting at AI City, humanity's final stronghold, now completely consumed by flames. Bodies of brave soldiers litter the streets, heroes who fought to their very last breath and lost. Just one man remains standing. Despite the hopeless odds, he refuses to stop swinging his blade. This exhausted warrior is our main character, Colin Hall. Even the demon he faces is stunned by his sheer willpower to keep on fighting. There is zero chance he can actually win this, and the monster knows it too. The demon offers a final mercy. He lets Colin choose exactly how he wants to die. Colin stares in horror. Is this really where the journey ends for him? 1 year ago, the nightmare started when demons launched a sudden invasion against humanity. Before anyone could even process the threat, the royal capital had already fallen. The common soldiers fought back hard. But they were no match for monsters who could wield devastating magic. See, before the war, magic was a luxury reserved only for nobles with elite bloodlines. These arrogant supremacists truly believed they were the chosen heroes who would save the world. But when the demons arrived, they realized their magic was nothing but child's play compared to the hellish powers they faced. The nobles. They watched as their walls crumbled and their families were torn to shreds. Now, with Colin as the final survivor, he regrets not finding a certain forbidden grimoire sooner. Maybe things would have turned out differently. The demon keeps mocking his struggle. He asks if Colin has picked a death yet, or if he should just invent one himself. Suddenly, Colin snaps back. Get this, Colin tells the beast he talks too much, which completely shocks the demon. Colin has finally decided to unleash a power he never wanted to use from the start. He springs back up and charges, but the demon effortlessly deflects his desperate strike. Colin won't back down. He pours on the pressure, forcing the monster to finally leave an opening. He manages to bury his sword deep into the demon's chest, pushing him back. But there is no damage. The monster laughs. Did Colin really think basic swordsmanship could take down a high-tier demon? Then a deep cut appears. The demon screams in agony. He never imagined a mere human could actually draw his blood. Colin knows normal steel can't touch him. This is something else entirely. He is wielding a forbidden style that trades his very soul for power. It is leagues beyond any normal swordsmanship. Colin dashes forward again, and a brutal clash of iron and magic begins. They trade blows with insane speed, but Colin's sheer desperation is starting to give him the edge. He spots a tiny gap in the defense and instantly slices the demon's arm clean off. He goes for the second arm. But this time, the demon catches it. The monster smirks. Maybe a surprise attack with that forbidden sword would have worked, he says. Unfortunately for Colin, that chance has already passed. Colin watches in despair as the demon shatters his blade with a grip. The monster grabs his head and slams him into a wall with bone-shattering force. He groans in pain. Even his final trump card wasn't enough to defeat this nightmare. The demon slowly looms over him. He admits that the human's technique was impressive, even if he doesn't know its origin. But he makes one thing clear: this is the absolute end. The demon seizes Colin, lifting him into the air like a fragile doll. Regret washes over Colin. After everything, all he managed to take was the monster's right arm, deep down. His spirit is completely broken. He can only whisper apologies to everyone who believed he could win. The demon slices his throat, letting the lifeblood flow like a crimson river. In a strange twist, that blood spills onto the mysterious grimoire, awakening its power. Colin is stunned when his eyes snap open. Somehow, he is still breathing, which makes no sense. However, he is in a void. When a voice calls his name, he spins around in a panic. He shouts into the dark, only to find the ancient grimoire floating right before him. The book explains that his blood and pure desperation finally woke it from its long slumber. It promises to send Colin back in time so he can fix every single mistake. Colin doesn't hesitate for even a second. He'll do anything for a chance to rewrite his tragic and broken history. He doesn't know the book's true goals, but honestly, he has nothing left to lose. With the deal sealed, the grimoire vows to stay by his side, and help him master the most powerful magic imaginable. The pages fly open, blinding Colin with light as it tells him to claim a new future. Suddenly, Colin's eyes open to the sounds of a brutal arena. A massive gladiator stands there, wearing a hideous mask. Known as the Butcher, he swings a giant mallet while the bloodthirsty crowd roars for more. Colin scans his surroundings and realizes he's back in the slave pits. He's holding a worn-out sword and shield. But as the memories flood back, he realizes exactly where and when he is. The Butcher slams his mallet down. Colin tanks the hit, sending the noble audience into a frenzy. One noble turns to a man of high status, the infamous Count Slaith, praising the incredible fight. Slaith coldly remarks that commoners were born to be slaves and exist only for their amusement. The Butcher strikes again, raising his hammer high to finish Colin off and leave nothing but a red smear. The massive weapon slams down, creating a crater in the dirt. The crowd loses their minds, thinking the fight is over. The Butcher's name thunders through the stands. But when the dust clears, the entire stadium freezes in shock. Colin is still standing. And he is calmly stepping on the Butcher's massive hammer to show his dominance. Everything clicks now. Colin realizes he truly has regressed back to his youth. Back to the dark days when he was forced to fight as a gladiator. He can feel it in his veins. The Grimoire has already fused with his very soul. This is it. Colin decides that from this moment on, he's changing his fate. It is time to change everything. He lunges at the Butcher, and with a powerful slash, he removes his head. The Butcher is just his first step toward stopping the demons from wiping out humanity in the future. He must master every spell hidden within the Grimoire if he wants to survive this time. He'll be ruthless. Colin knows that as long as he is a slave, hope is just a lie. To change the world, he must first change his own lowly status. His eyes lock onto a man in the distance, Darius Hall, the powerful lord ruling over the entire Rhine territory. His goal, infiltrate the Marquis household and claim his place as one of their very own. And this. He is going to move much faster than in his last life. Survival demands a far more aggressive pace. Just moments before the fight, Colin's master warned him the commoners bet everything on him to beat the Butcher. They are all in. But he wasn't supposed to win. The nobles bet on the Butcher, and nobody defies the high and mighty. His master literally begged him to lose. If he won, his life would be over. Colin sees right through Slaith. The man is trying to sell him out to the nobles. But Colin has other plans. He will use this betrayal to claw his way into the Hall family. With pure arrogance, Colin demands they send out another victim. The nobles who followed Slaith's advice are starting to panic. Their bets on the Butcher just went up in smoke. They are screaming about the massive fortune they just lost. Slaith tries to settle them down, claiming this shocking turn of events is actually part of the script. Meanwhile, Darius is captivated. That strike taking the Butcher's head, absolute perfection. He turns to his butler, asking for his honest take on it. The man admits it was phenomenal. Even the Empire's elite knights would struggle to pull off a move that precise and deadly. Darius smiles. To him, the best part is seeing Colin openly spit in Slaith's face by winning. Before long, the next unlucky opponent is dragged out. Slaith tells the nervous nobles that there is absolutely nothing to fear. He claims they are just giving Colin a little hope to keep the crowd engaged and the bets flowing. He promises that Colin will be torn into bloody shreds in this next round. But before the sentence is even finished, Colin has already dropped his second target. He does it with zero hesitation, planting a boot on the corpse to show everyone who is boss. Slaith's jaw hits the floor. The nobles turn on him instantly. They are furious that things are drifting so far from their original deal. The man is practically shaking in his boots. He cannot understand why Colin is doing the exact opposite of what he was told. Panicking, Slaith orders every single gladiator they have to enter the arena. Darius is loving the show. You and I can see he is having the time of his life. In his past life, Colin remembers Darius's dream, a world where magic belongs to everyone. He was entrusted with that vision, but they eventually failed. But with his new power, Colin knows he can win. First, he has to impress Darius. If he wants to infiltrate that family, he needs to be impossible to ignore. Simply winning isn't enough anymore. He needs to do something absolutely insane to get noticed. He challenges every gladiator to attack him at once, and the idiots actually take the bait. They charge at him. Little do they know, they are running straight into their own graves. Colin begins carving through them with terrifying, high-speed skill. While he is busy working, the commoners are screaming with joy as their pockets get fat. Suddenly, one gladiator tries a cowardly sneak attack from the rear. Colin blocks it effortlessly, then drives his sword through the man's chest so hard it bursts out the other side. The blade flies with such speed, it nearly takes Slaith's head clean off his shoulders. Instead, it slams deep into the wall behind him. Slaith's whole life flashes before him. Slaith is absolutely fuming. Colin has utterly humiliated him, tearing his pride to pieces. Meanwhile, you can see Colin smiling. Everything is going exactly according to his plan. Slaith is completely losing it, desperately plotting a way to make Colin pay for the shame. Watching the chaos, Darius decides to mock Slaith. He notes that the chess piece is now the player, and the fisherman has become the catch. Darius reveals that his plans are ruined, and the other nobles are absolutely livid hearing it. They berate Darius. They slam him for acting detached, reminding him he is still the lord of this territory. Do you really plan to let a slave who defied a noble walk free? The nobles tell Darius. Colin must be executed, the harshest penalty possible for his crimes. Suddenly, Darius's mood shifts. Let's see him ask if looking down on others is normal for them. His words hit heavy, but they just mock his false ideals. 1,000 years ago, their ancestors received magic from God, and a rigid hierarchy was born right then and there. Magic basically made them gods. But Darius clings to stupid ideologies instead. Slaith asks Darius if he really intends to defy their great god. Colin spots his opening immediately. Suddenly, he is in the stands, asking Slaith if there is something wrong with Darius's ideals. The nobles freak out seeing Colin sitting right there with them. They're literally foaming at the mouth, yelling at this commoner for making a fool of their god. Guards arrest him. Then Colin does something shocking. He offers to fight Slaith to see if he's really God's proxy. Slaith is seething with rage, but to save face, he has no choice but to enter the arena. The nobles are certain Colin is a dead man for challenging Slaith. Darius, however, watches intently to see what happens next. Slaith gathers his magic, fuming over his ruined plans and the insult to their god. To top it off, he even challenged him to a duel. That's the breaking point. He starts his attack. A strange voice rings in Colin's head. Mana has been detected. It hits him immediately. It's the Grimoire. A status window appears, displaying Slaith's secret stats. Turns out, his magic is still beginner level. And his specialty is wind magic. His aptitude is low, his sword skills are beginner, and he has no magic resistance at all. Slaith unleashes his strongest spell, Wind Edge, to destroy Colin. He refuses to forgive the humiliation. Even Darius is worried, knowing exactly what a Wind Edge can do. It turns the wind into a razor blade that slices enemies to pieces. The nobles are already betting on how many pieces he'll be sliced into. The attack hits home, as Slaith tries to show the slave his place. But, wait for it, the attack only shreds Colin's shirt, leaving his body completely untouched. Colin is disappointed, but he knows beginner magic is just naturally weak. He understands that since the magic is only beginner level, it lacks power. At the same time, his own magic resistance is also at beginner level. Colin is relieved the magic resistance he got with the Grimoire came through so perfectly. Colin easily wipes the spell away. Compared to demon magic, this is practically nothing. Slaith and the other nobles watch in shock as Colin deletes the magic and dashes forward at insane speed. Slaith grabs his sword, trying to block the strike, but Colin just overwhelms him and slams him down. Colin pins him with a blade to the throat, making the defeat crystal clear. Suddenly, the grimoire flashes another warning about a magic attack coming his way. Before he can react, a glowing magic circle erupts right beneath his feet, and dark skeletal hands shoot up to lock him in place. Silver-armored knights suddenly swarm into the arena, responding to the reports that Colin was openly defying a noble while also insulting their very god. The magic binding Colin tightens even more, leaving him totally pinned down while the knights announce they are taking him into custody in the name of their god. Colin looks at them through the corner of his eye and realizes these are the god guards. In this world, the Magic Tower is a powerful organization built specifically to uphold bloodline supremacy and maintain God's absolute authority. The God Guards serve the Magic Tower directly, and they are elite nobles from the Supremacy faction with power that far exceeds any normal highborn. Even though Colin could easily shatter this binding magic, he restrains himself. He is not ready to catch the eye of the high-ranking officials yet. But he has a backup plan and suddenly lets out a shout, announcing to everyone that he is Colin Hall, Darius's son. Shocking the whole arena. No one there ever expected to hear that the Marquis actually had a secret second son. Colin is banking on the fact that the God Guards would never dare strike a noble. So, he is just waiting to see how this whole situation unfolds. Slaith grabs his weapon, ready to kill Colin. He claims the boy is just lying about being a noble to save himself. Suddenly, Darius's voice rings out across the arena, commanding Slaith to stop what he is doing immediately. Darius walks onto the scene, and Slaith tells him he was just about to finish Colin off. To everyone's surprise, Darius strikes Colin across the face, calling him a fool for dragging their family name through the dirt. The God Guards and the crowd can't believe what they're seeing. Darius grabs Colin by the throat, screaming that he sent him to the Merchant Guild to learn discipline, but clearly it was a waste. Darius scolds Colin for striking Slaith, seeing how Darius is playing into the act. Colin realizes his big gamble might actually pay off after all. Darius then apologizes to Slaith for the insulting behavior his idiot son just put on display. Colin makes it even more convincing by shouting that Slaith started it, but Darius just screams at him to keep his mouth shut. Darius turns to the God Guards, saying he will deal with his son personally so they can all just head back. However, Slaith refuses, telling the God Guards not to let Colin go. Slaith levels his sword right at Darius, screaming his lungs out. He yells that this pathetic performance won't deceive him for a single second. Slaith swears he won't let Colin leave this spot alive, promising to cut the boy down right here and now, no matter the cost. Colin immediately turns Slaith's very own words against him. He asks if he actually intended to include the Lord of the Rhine territory on his hit list. Colin shifts the entire vibe. He asks if Slaith is planning a rebellion. Realizing he's backed into a corner, Slaith's sword hits the floor instantly. He stammers that Colin has it all wrong. This was never his intention. The Godguard leader unties Colin, deciding that this whole mess was just one big, unfortunate misunderstanding. The knight offers Darius a quick apology before announcing their immediate departure. Before heading out, the leader warns Slaith that a full report is going to the Magic Tower, and they will be in touch once a final decision is made. Slaith collapses to the dirt in pure despair, realizing his career is officially over. As they exit the arena, the Godguard leader orders his assistant to investigate Colin immediately, certain he's never heard of the Mars family having a son. He knows for a fact that Colin isn't actually Darius's blood. He demands they shadow the boy and report his every single move. During the ride back to the Mars estate, Darius erupts into laughter inside the carriage, praising Colin for that brilliant piece of acting. Colin bows his head, offering the Marquis his most sincere thanks. Turns out, Darius had already sent his butler, Cornell, to handle the payment for his release. Darius then asks if Colin has combat experience, noting that he moves with the precision of a seasoned veteran. Colin shares his past, explaining how he grew up in a tiny, remote village. But after his parents passed, He was snatched up and sold to a slave trading company. Eventually, a noble bought him and taught him magic theory and combat, acting more like a real father than a master. That man left Colin with a grand ideal, but the boy admits he failed to reach it. This time, however, he's determined to finally live up to those heavy expectations. Colin makes it clear he'll do whatever it takes, even if it costs him his life. Darius is stunned. It finally clicks why Slaith's attack failed. Colin already knows the fundamentals of magic. Darius sees that Colin possesses a truly iron heart. Because of this, he realizes Colin might actually be the one to achieve his goals. Moments later, they arrive at the gates. Darius tells Colin to step inside, promising him that his days as a slave are over. But don't you expect a peaceful life? In this place, the law of the world remains simple. Only the strongest will ever survive. Darius. He warns Colin that saving him and granting him nobility was the limit of his help. Now, Colin must face the next trial alone. Right then, Darius addresses him as Colin Hall, making it clear that he's putting all his chips on the boy. Colin breathes a sigh of relief. The first phase of his plan is finally, officially complete. Everyone knows that nobles only marry within their own social rank, to protect the power of their magic bloodlines. The Hall family is absolutely obsessed with this idea of blood supremacy. However, Darius is the outlier here. His mother was a mere servant, and he's faced brutal prejudice his entire life. Still, through pure grind and absolute crushing power, he rose through the ranks, becoming the legendary Lord of Rhine, a name everyone knows and respects. Walking together through the grand estate hall, Darius makes it clear, the past is irrelevant. In this house, only raw strength matters. He promises Colin everything he could ever want, no strings attached. We are talking status, honor, and massive wealth, if he has the skills to earn it. Since anything is on the table, Colin drops a total bombshell. He asks point-blank if Darius would hand over his throne as Lord if he demanded it. Darius and Cornell are stunned, but then Darius just laughs it off like a total boss. He tells Colin straight up, the seat is his if he is brave enough to actually take it. Colin isn't actually that shocked by this reaction. He knows Darius only cares about results and giving everyone a fair shot. This mindset made him a target, hated by bloodline purists and even those within his very own family circle. They enter the main hall where the family is already lined up, waiting for him. Meet Freed Hall, the eldest son, and his mother, the cunning Katrina Williams. Katrina plays the part of the doting wife, but Darius isn't buying it. He's annoyed. Why? Because he didn't tell a single soul he was returning today. Clearly, there are no secrets kept from a woman like Katrina. She just smiles, claiming that rumors fly fast whenever the Great Lord is on the move. She even mentions his little spat with Viscount Slaith over a slave. A little bird told her. Darius isn't fooled. He knows his wife has spies tracking his every move. Colin spots her immediately. Katrina, the woman known as the true ruler in the shadows. In his past life, she was the one who made his existence a literal living hell. She systematically crushed every single one of his opportunities. Having inherited a massive fortune and title from her parents, she holds real power. This wealth lets her stand as an equal to the first wife. Even as the second wife, she's currently pulling strings to make her son Freed the next heir. Colin walked right into her trap before, losing everything. But this time, he is absolutely certain history won't be repeating itself. He steps forward and introduces himself with total confidence as Colin Hall. Hearing that name, Freed nearly loses his mind, demanding to know who this nobody is. He is ready to throw hands right there, but his mother steps in and stops him. Katrina glares at Cornell, asking how on earth a lowly slave is permitted a noble name. She snaps at Cornell, accusing him of being completely incompetent, but then Colin makes things worse by drawing his weapon. He tells the woman straight, Darius gave him that name himself, and he asks if they have any objections. His pure arrogance cuts through the air like a razor-sharp blade. He is not done yet. He declares that he will be the future lord of this territory. And when that happens, he's going to make all of them bow to him. This pushes them over the edge. But Darius, he is loving every single second of this chaotic drama. The staff are absolutely floored by the sheer guts of this kid. They can't believe his claim. Katrina finally snaps, losing her cool and lashing out. She screams at Colin for his insolence, reminding him he's nothing more than a lowly slave. As soon as she speaks, the servants draw their blades, boxing Colin in from every side. They move to seize him on Katrina's command, but then everything stops. Darius intervenes, ordering them to stand down. He admits that everything Colin said was the truth. Darius reveals a massive detail, depending on how the boy performs. He is actually considering making this commoner the next lord of the territory. Fried loses it, demanding to know what has gotten into his father's head. With the head of the house speaking up, Katrina is forced to bite her tongue. But she reminds Darius that hundreds of servants here have bled and sweated for years. Yet out of all of them, almost none have ever earned a noble name. Katrina warns that, with an arrangement like this, people are going to be furious, so, to keep everyone quiet, she suggests they put Colin to the test. Darius asks what kind of test she's imagining exactly. Katrina says Colin needs to prove his strength. That is the only way people will accept him. But if he fails, he follows house rules and leaves this estate in total disgrace. Suddenly, Colin speaks up. He says this just isn't enough. Fried smirks, mocking him. He asks if Colin is just too scared to take the deal. Colin counters that there is no point in him taking this test all by himself. In fact, he thinks everyone should be forced to take it. And the title should go to whoever actually wins the trial. Real talent should decide the heir, not just some failure who got lucky enough to be born into the Hall family. That hits Fried right where it hurts. He realizes Colin is straight up mocking him now. He is practically foaming at the mouth. He has never been insulted like this in his entire life. Fried is speechless. He is being forced to compete against servants and slaves for his own inheritance. He is about to snap when his mother places a calm hand on his shoulder, telling him to stay elegant. Don't waste energy getting worked up over a monkey. Katrina reminds him he has absolute magic on his side. They should just sit back and watch the show. Even though he is fuming, Fried has no choice but to listen to his mother's advice. In the end, Darius goes with Colin's bold plan. A selection test for all volunteers is set for exactly 1 month from now. But until then, Colin is stuck working as a low-level servant, just like the life he left behind. Heading to the quarters, Cornell corners Colin. He says it is obvious the kid knows exactly what Darius is after. Colin just plays dumb when he hears that accusation. Cornell explains that Darius is hated because of his overly noble ideals. He points out that Colin's story mentions being picked up by a noble before the slave arena incident. But looking at the records from the Slave Association, things do not add up. Cornell heard that Colin was actually brought in directly from some remote village. Cornell pulls out his dagger. He says Colin appeared right when Darius was desperate for a worthy successor, a bit too perfect. He grabs Colin, pressing the blade against his throat. This whole situation is just a little too convenient. Colin just shrugs. He tells Cornell that he is actually right, his logic is pretty sound. But the Slave Association, they are the kind of people who would rig a match without blinking an eye. He mentions they made deals with Slaith just to scam people out of their gold. All right, you and I are watching Colin drop a heavy question about whether the association will leave him alone. Cornell pauses to reflect. He specifically remembers the merchant claiming that Colin was only intermediate strength at best. But the skill he showed during those fights, that was clearly advanced level, if not even higher. Whether it is swordsmanship or magic, the Empire has set very strict tiers. Most people hit a wall once they reach the intermediate rank. But only a tiny fraction ever hit advanced level. And anything beyond, that is in a league of its own. Since most nobles only focus on magic, their sword skills are usually pretty amateurish. But for elite groups like the God Guards, reaching that advanced tier is a mandatory requirement. Cornell starts to wonder if those merchants lied to him just to get Colin out of the picture. seeing the doubt written on his face. Colin realizes that Cornell is finally starting to put the pieces together. Now, to prove he is not a spy, Colin decides to reveal something that clears his name. He points out that if he were actually a spy, he would be targeting the Lord. Naturally, Cornell is confused and asks him what he means. Colin explains that a real spy would try to infiltrate the inner circle to find the target's weaknesses. This means that if he were a spy, he would be coming for Cornell's job, not the Lord's. Cornell is still looking lost, so Colin explains that if he managed to become the head butler, grabbing all the Lord's secrets would be a total piece of cake. Since they are being honest, Colin suggests they make a deal. He tells Cornell that he will use his servant status to hunt down spies from other nobles, but only if Cornell agrees to help him. Cornell asks if he understands that he is basically declaring war on other powerful nobles by doing this. And Colin just shrugs. To him, this is a classic case of high risk, high reward. Plus, if anything happens to the Lord, Cornell's dream of becoming the successor is completely dead. Cornell finally realizes it. Colin is not just strong, he is incredibly sharp too. The offer is almost too good to be true, making Cornell wonder if there is a hidden catch. Still, he pushes those worries aside for now and tells Colin to follow him to his new living quarters. Turns out, the servants are split into 3 different ranks, a system designed by none other than Katrina. High-class servants serve Katrina, the Lord, and their son directly. Then there are middle-class workers who are allowed to live inside the main mansion with the family. At the very bottom are the low-class servants who live in the detached quarters. These lower-class workers are forbidden from even approaching the main mansion. And since Colin is starting at the bottom, he is stuck with dirty work like trash disposal, wood chopping, and cleaning stables. The pay, a measly 3 copper coins a day. Then Cornell drops the one rule that is absolute. He must show absolute respect to his senior servants, no matter what happens. As Colin hears this, he looks over to see his new seniors already smirking. They have clearly found a new toy to break. Cornell walks off, reminding him that these are the rules Katrina herself put in place. Trying to play nice for once, Colin walks up to greet his new seniors. Colin introduces himself properly, politely saying he is looking forward to working alongside them. But instead of returning the courtesy, these guys decide to act like total jerks. They start mocking him, sarcastically suggesting a lowly kid like him could actually become the next lord. One bully steps forward, bringing up rumors about Colin picking a fight with the lady of the house. These fools actually think they can teach Colin a lesson on how to greet his superiors properly. One of them smashes a bottle, turning the jagged glass into a deadly weapon. He demands Colin get on his knees and repeat that he is looking forward to working with them while slapping his face. He sneers that the kid will not be stopping until they are finally satisfied with his performance. One guy gets overconfident and roughly grabs Colin by the shoulder. He points a finger in his face, asking if he understands what they just demanded. Colin has finally reached his limit, and he suddenly snatches the man's arm, twisting it behind his back. The pain is so sharp, the bully lets out a scream of pure agony. His friends watch in shock as Colin finishes him off by kicking him into a wall, knocking him cold. But Colin is not finished yet, casually walking toward the guy slumped on the floor. He tells his seniors that since they insisted on him face slapping, he is simply going to follow their very helpful instructions. He begins slapping the man left and right, repeating how much he is looking forward to working with him. The remaining 2 lose their minds as they watch Colin absolutely dismantle their friend. The guy with the broken bottle charges at Colin while the other tries to grab him. But Colin quickly grabs his sword and hurls it straight at the guy with the bottle, gripping only the scabbard. He launches the weapon forward, smacking the guy right in the face and sending him to the dirt. The last guy watches in horror as his friend collapses nearby, his face completely mangled from the impact. Before he can even process the situation, Colin decides to give him his own personal dose of punishment. Colin lunges forward, delivering a kick to the face that sends the man flying backward. As the guy tries to pull himself together, he finds Colin standing over him with a sword, asking if he is finally satisfied. The man squeals like a pig, desperately shouting that he is more than satisfied with the results. Colin accepts the surrender and decides to finally back off for now. But this guy's ego will not let him be humiliated by a mere child. He snatches the broken bottle and launches a desperate surprise attack, but that was his biggest mistake. In less than a second, Colin reacts, cleanly slicing off the attacker's hands, leaving him with a permanent reminder of his stupidity. Later that night, Colin retires to his quiet room. He focuses on his magic practice, knowing the future is uncertain and he simply cannot afford to slack off. Apparently, when Katrina married Darius, she purged the Hall family servants, replacing them with her own loyalists under a strict new system. This caused the relationship between the two, whose ideologies were already worlds apart. Things only spiraled even further into chaos. In the middle of all this tension, Cornell was appointed as the head butler, specifically to keep Katrina in check. Essentially, Cornell has the authority to fire Katrina's people and even holds a deciding vote in selecting the heir. That means absolutely no one can claim the succession without first gaining Cornell's personal approval. However, in Colin's first life, you see, Cornell's death was the trigger that allowed Katrina to force her own candidate into the succession. All right, if Cornell were still alive, things wouldn't have ended quite like this. But meanwhile, he's stressing over his beginner-level magic resistance. It is just not enough. He needs a new spell that can act as both his shield and his sword. Colin dives into the Grimoire's power, groaning as a massive flood of knowledge tears into his mind. It feels like 1,000 ants biting him as raw energy surges through every vein in his body. His blood, bones, and soul feel like they are being melted by liquid fire. Voices. Ghostly whispers scream his name, trying to force dark thoughts and terrible commands into his psyche. Soon enough, Colin realizes he has hit his absolute limit. He hates this. Why do nobles get it so easy just because of their blood? Actually, this just fuels his fire. He's determined to surpass everyone, including the elite nobles. Colin pushes past the pain until his body finally gives out. Sunrise finally arrives. Stepping outside, Colin sees his seniors already hard at work in the morning light. He mocks them for being such early birds, joking that he really expected a midnight ambush from them. The servants stay silent. They definitely aren't looking for a round two after the absolute beatdown Colin gave them yesterday. Colin smirks. They are lucky they stayed put. An attack would have ended in a total disaster. Checking his status window, he sees he finally gained some new magic. It is only beginner tier, though, unlike his insane Grandmaster-level swordsmanship. Colin's happy. All that hard work paid off and everything went exactly as planned. He lets out a yawn. He's wiped out from the night's training, so finding some food is his only priority right now. His seniors are absolutely fuming, but they're too terrified to even breathe his way. Wait for it. The guard corps suddenly storms into the quarters, making every servant instantly drop and bow to the soldiers and their bald vice captain leading them. One servant is busy, grabbing some water, completely unaware that the guards have even arrived. A guard takes offense and kicks him hard in the chest for being slow. He's told to get out of the middle of the road, but the water spills on the captain's boot. Realizing he is in deep trouble now, the servant bows low, desperately begging for mercy and explaining that he just didn't see where he was going. The captain plays nice, kneeling down to tell the poor guy that he isn't even angry. He's almost relieved, until the bald captain demands his eyes since they clearly don't seem to work. Without a second thought, he brutally rips the servant's eyes out right then and there. The other servants can only watch in horror, unable to do a thing. An aggressive guard barks at them to look down and get on their knees immediately, while everyone else obeys. Now look at Colin. He is strolling around, totally ignoring the chaos surrounding him. He has got only one thing on his mind: breakfast. But the guy from yesterday points out Colin's arrogance to the bald captain at that very moment. He snitches, saying Colin was the one who cut off his hands. He warns the captain that Colin is a monster and definitely not someone to take lightly. Instead of listening to that armless guy, the captain summons Colin to face judgment. Colin just spins around, asking if he wants his hands chopped off next. The captain doesn't back down, snapping that his men aren't nearly as soft as Darius and Katrina were. The guards immediately draw their steel and advance on Colin, barking at him to cut off his own arm or they will take it. Since they have decided to take the violent path, Colin offers a choice. Do they want to keep their arms or their heads? The captain suddenly pivots to a new plan, claiming he is not in the business of brawling with low-tier thugs like him. Now here is a face you and I recognize, Dak, the absolute legend and former champion of the slave arena. Dak is a mid-level guard corps reserve now, but he is a very familiar face to our main guy. Actually, Colin is genuinely stunned to find Dak in this place because in his past life, they were actually the closest of friends. Looking at those fresh scars, Colin realizes Dak was just getting a beating from these guards moments ago. He asks Dak if he is really going to fight the captain's battles for him. Dak levels his sword at Colin, stating that according to the rules, low-rank servants must obey mid-ranks and juniors must always follow seniors. He believes that anyone who breaks the hierarchy deserves a brutal punishment. Colin asks if he is even allowed to complain about the unfairness, especially when he is being treated like garbage. That question hits Dak like a physical blow, leaving him completely speechless. While Dak is frozen in thought, Colin suddenly vanishes, dashing past him and snatching his sword away. In a complete blur of motion, he reaches the captain and presses the blade to his throat, ready to finish him. The guards are paralyzed, screaming in shock as you and I watch him move that fast. Even Dak is wide-eyed because Colin just bypassed him in an absolute heartbeat. Not only that, but he stole his sword. Even with a sharp blade against his jugular, the captain tries to act tough, screaming at Colin to watch himself. He claims Freed personally chose him, and that hurting him means a death sentence. He would be making an enemy of Freed and every servant in the place. Seeing the other servants staring at him with weird looks, Colin decided to back off. The captain thinks his bluff worked and tells Colin that he is still going to pay. But first, he has some business to settle with someone else. Suddenly, the guards slash Dak's back with their swords as punishment for failing the captain. But it doesn't stop there. They literally pierce Dak's hand with a sword, mocking him for wasting a chance to be useful. Watching them torture his old friend, Colin finally snaps. He explodes into action, lunging forward to decapitate the guards. The captain sees an opening to strike Colin from behind and immediately lunges. But Colin's reflexes are god tier, and he parries the strike instantly. He warns the captain that next time, it's his head. Colin swings his blade, ready to deliver a final, painful lesson. But somehow, Dak moves to save the captain at the last second. He blocks the attack, leaving Colin confused as to why Dak is still helping this monster. Dak shoves Colin back, telling him to stop before things get worse. You and I have to wonder why he is still protecting him. Watching the sheer agony Dak is enduring right now. Colin decides to let the captain slide this once, but warns him there won't be a second chance. He barks at the guards to beat it, and once they're gone, Colin asks Dak why he's acting like a lapdog when he's clearly the stronger fighter. Dak just glares back, saying Colin is a dead man walking for defying the captain's authority. And as for why he's playing the fool, Dak says he owes a dying man zero explanations. He tosses his own sword over to Colin, telling him to keep the blade, since it's nothing but bad luck to him anyway. Later, the captain repays Dak's loyalty by shoving his head into a water jar, instead of thanking him for saving his pathetic life. Dak actually apologizes to the guy before getting tossed onto the floor like literal garbage. A guard asks if the captain is really just letting Colin walk away without a scratch. But the captain makes it clear he has zero intention of being merciful. He orders his lackey to spread a rumor that Colin has officially declared war on the elite servants, a scheme designed to strip his status and leave him completely isolated and alone. Meanwhile, Colin is still struggling to understand why someone as strong as Dak refuses to fight back. A bit later, the servants gather for a meal. The high-ranking elites get served the absolute best food available, while the mid-ranks get a decent portion. But the low ranks, they're forced to queue up for literal scraps that look like trash. Colin, absolutely starving by now, steps up to get his plate, but the guy serving the food flat out refuses to give him anything. He even snatches the plate right out from under Colin and dumps the food back into the pot. Colin looks around and sees all the other servants staring at him with these bizarre, mocking expressions. Instead of arguing, he decides to pull a move that shocks the entire room. He boldly strides past the mid-ranks and heads straight for the dining hall, reserved for the elite high-rank servants. Colin waltzes into the elite area and literally shoves two servants out of his way without a care. The maids immediately start screaming, demanding that someone drag Colin out of their exclusive space. Colin just walks right up to the elite table to grab the best food, while a mob of angry servants surrounds him, demanding answers. He ignores the noise until Cornell shows up, reminding Colin that he's trespassing in the territory where only the elite servants are allowed to eat. Even with that warning, Colin doesn't look bothered at all. And the rest of the servants instantly demand that Cornell gives Colin a harsh punishment. Cornell knows things are about to get ugly if he doesn't step in and handle this situation quickly. So he claims it's just a simple misunderstanding, since Colin is still new and doesn't know the rules. Cornell then orders Colin to follow him, while the other servants watch with pure disappointment as Cornell leads him away without the brutal punishment they were hoping for. Cornell asks if he's forgotten the rule about absolute obedience to his superiors, and Colin casually admits that he has. Still, he reminds Cornell that Darius promised rewards based on skill and the way he sees things. He definitely has the strength to earn a decent meal. Right then, Cornell reveals that he's actually decided to accept that proposal from earlier, promising to back him up and help him navigate his daily life from here on out. But in exchange, Cornell wants Colin to sniff out the spy hiding within the estate. Suddenly, they spot a hunting signal, and Colin is genuinely taken aback by it. Colin asks Cornell a simple question: why's Darius heading out so early? Cornell explains that something strange is going on deep inside the gloomy forest. So, Darius is going in to investigate while he hunts. As soon as Colin hears the gloomy forest mentioned, he's interested. Just like that, he is totally hooked. Not long after, we see Colin stalking a red-eyed black deer through the dark trees. Hiding in the brush, he fires 3 arrows at once, dropping it instantly. He emerges from cover and starts field dressing the deer with his knife. To his surprise, he finds a monster core inside the beast. Usually, these cores are for jewelry, but according to the Grimoire, they can be used for potions and items that boost your abilities. But the core's power depends entirely on the rank of the monster. This one is bottom tier, but perfect for a basic mana potion. Before heading out, Colin had told Cornell he wanted to go hunting. Cornell was shocked. After the weirdness in the forest, things are strict. Only guards, elite knights, or authorized personnel are allowed inside anymore. But Colin, being Colin, finds a cheeky loophole in the rules. He claims he can enter as long as he's with the guards. While Colin's busy digging through deer guts, Dak stumbles in, breathless. It turns out he's been frantically searching for Colin after he vanished. Dak can't believe his eyes. Hunting is for nobles, yet here's Colin standing over a fresh kill. Colin ignores the complaining and asks to borrow Dak's sword. He shoves the blade into the carcass, a plan already forming. Now, it'll look like Dak was the one who caught it. Dak screams in frustration. That stupid logic is never going to work. It hasn't even been an hour, and Dak is already losing it. He blames Cornell for this, wondering why he was paired with Colin. Seriously, what was the butler thinking when he made this match? Colin had just popped up, claiming he received a mission from Cornell. To prove it, he even showed off Cornell's personal dagger. Their job is to assist Darius and secure some food along the way. Dak's convinced. His luck is absolutely rotten to be stuck with this troublemaker. Still, he decides to just focus on the mission for now. Later, Dak starts butchering the meat, hoping this haul earns him a promotion. He's trying to prove himself so he can finally become an official member. But before he knows it, Colin has already started grilling the meat. Dak freezes in shock, asking Colin what the heck he's doing. Colin just shrugs. Obviously, he's grilling meat. What does it look like? Dak keeps arguing. This food is for the family. You can't just eat it whenever. Colin just takes a massive bite. You and I know he doesn't care. All right, Colin slides the meat over, urging Dak to dig in and eat. Dak tries to play it cool, but Colin reminds him he only eats once every 3 days. Besides, he is already in trouble for losing his weapon, so he might as well enjoy a decent meal. To make up for it, Colin tells him to eat his fill. He adds that Dak cannot protect anyone on an empty stomach, while promising that this little feast will stay their little secret. He shoves the savory meat right under his nose. And Dak finally snaps, grabbing the massive chunk of meat with both hands. He scurries to a corner, tearing into it like a hungry beast, lying to himself that it is for the family. Watching him eat like that, Colin sees the raw hunger and takes the chance to ask why he follows orders from guards who are clearly much weaker than he is. Dak argues that strength is nothing compared to the devotion they owe their god. He believes that service brings nobility and hopes for a better reincarnation in his next life. He worked himself to the bone to reach mid-level status just so his little sister back home could have a brother she can look up to. He snaps at Colin, accusing him of suggesting he throw away everything he has ever sacrificed for. Dak admits he does not understand the leader's ways, but figures they are lucky just to be servants. He firmly believes they should just work hard without ever questioning the higher-ups. Colin shuts him down, saying he is overvaluing the nobility's divine power when, in reality, it is just basic magic. Dak scoffs, telling him that if it is so simple, he should show off a spell. Colin drops a bombshell, asking Dak what he would do if he actually could use magic. That gets Dak's full attention. He stares deep into Colin's eyes, completely frozen. Can you really use magic? Before the conversation can get deeper, a piercing scream echoes from the distance, grabbing their attention. It is a group of guards, and they are being hunted by a pack of flame wolves. The squad is being torn apart by the sheer numbers, and the group leader, Glenn, is in pure disbelief that he is actually losing to a bunch of wild beasts. He manages to parry a wolf before slicing the monster right down the middle. Suddenly, he is completely swarmed by wolves. But just as he is about to go down, arrows rain from nowhere. Picking off the wolves targeting him, our heroes, Colin and Dak, have arrived just in time. Colin recognizes the flame wolves, which are worth a fortune. Taking down just one could let someone live a life of luxury for years. More importantly, these wolves carry powerful cores, and Colin needs every last one. With a goal in mind, he is ready to slaughter the entire pack for those precious cores. He lunges straight into the fray without a second thought, leaving Glenn stunned. Colin, on the other hand, does not feel even slightly threatened. These monsters are nowhere near his level. He makes it look easy, firing off several precision shots to thin the pack. A wolf tries a sneak attack from behind, but he dodges it with effortless grace. He is actually surprised they are still attacking after seeing the massive power gap between them. All right, as the wolf lunges, Colin stays cool. He finds the perfect opening and delivers a kick so brutal the wolf flies back, leaving the elite guard stunned. No mercy here, Colin follows up instantly, pinning the beast down with a perfectly aimed arrow. The pack realizes it immediately. They mark Colin as the biggest threat on the field and swarm him with everything they have. NAWEVER, they are just sprinting toward their deaths. Glenn is paralyzed with shock. His team was barely hanging on, but this kid is literally playing with his food. One beast loses its mind and charges, spitting a barrage of fire directly at our main character. Colin just laughs at the heat, leaping high to clear the flames. Midair, he peppers the wolf with arrows before dropping down like a meteor toward his target. He slams it into the dirt with one final kick. He starts to relax, but then, a whistle of wind. For a split second, he thinks he is being targeted, but the arrow thuds into a wolf creeping up behind him. Turns out, Dak had his back. He warns Colin to stay sharp because this chaotic battlefield is far from over. Colin just gives him a cheeky wink and a thumbs up. Nice save, man. Now, let us finish this. Together, they wipe out the remaining pack. Even Glenn has to admit he is impressed. He tells them they have some serious talent. When he asks who their master is, Dak explains they are not official yet, but they are here serving Darius. Dak introduces himself as a reserve guard, but then drops the bomb that Colin is just a lowly servant. Apparently, they were sent as emergency backup under Cornell's direct orders to help the squad. The whole team is floored. A servant, doing all that, it makes no sense. Glenn's men are livid. Their pride is wounded because a bunch of nobodies had to save their lives. While they are busy whining and talking trash, Colin is already busy harvesting the monster cores. Jackpot, this wolf core is actually intermediate rank, a pretty rare find. He is confident he will get exactly what he needs if he just follows the steps in his magic book. Suddenly, the squad's resident hothead Marvin starts barking. He screams at Colin, demanding to know who gave a servant permission to touch their kills. Glenn steps in to cool things down. He tells Marvin to let it go because finding Darius is the priority. But Colin is not having that. The guy called him a brat, so Colin reminds him that this brat is the only reason he is still breathing. Marvin completely loses his mind. But Glenn and Sarah have to jump in and physically hold the big guy back from doing something stupid. See, Colin knows exactly who these people are. In his past life, this trio was the inner circle of Darius. But in the original timeline, they all died. They died while investigating the deep forest, which was the first domino to fall in Darius's loss of power. Colin is actually relieved he is here. This time, he is going to rewrite history and make sure they all make it out alive. Seeing Marvin still fuming, Dak tries to play peacemaker for the group. He tells them to take it easy, since Colin is just a rookie who does not know the etiquette yet. Sarah isn't having it. She insults Dak, calling him Katrina's little pet and telling him to stay out of it. The moment Glenn hears Colin is new. It clicks. This is the guy who had the guts to tell Katrina he would be the next lord. Glenn admits the kid has some real power. But he warns him that unless he drops those crazy ambitions, he is going to end up regretting everything. Let's stick around to see what they find next. All right, let's see. Glenn knows the mission failed, but he appreciates that Colin saved them. Suddenly, a wave of pure, bone-chilling danger washes over the entire area. Before they know it, the massive flame Wolf King emerges with his entire deadly pack. The team panics seeing this. One look at that Wolf King tells them he is not to be messed with. To make matters worse, the king brought enough backup, and just like that, one of the wolves lunges straight for Glenn. Glenn freezes in pure terror, waiting for the beast to tear him apart. But Colin saves him again. Glenn is stunned, finally asking, who exactly is this guy? Colin just gives him a smirk, reminding him that he just saved his life again. Colin goes for the Wolf King's throat, but his strike is effortlessly batted away. He gets sent flying. Colin realizes that his sword skills alone won't be enough to put this monster down. Watching him get pushed back, Sarah and Glenn shout out in worry. This king has slaughtered countless elite Imperial soldiers before. Before the team knows, the wolves have them boxed in. Marvin screams out in absolute terror. He screams to know what to do, since even dealing with the regular wolves is already enough trouble. And now, the king himself is actively gunning for their heads. Right then, Colin tells Marvin not to worry. To the king, these regular wolves are nothing more than simple puppets. He explains that these flame wolves only follow their master's orders. They don't have a single shred of independent will left. Basically, take down the king, and the entire pack is finished. Glenn is totally shocked. Is Colin actually suggesting they fight that thing? Even Dak supports the doubt. He points out that elite Imperial knights couldn't touch him, so how could they possibly win? As if things aren't bad enough already, He reminds Colin that their swords are already damaged. However, Colin looks them in the eye. You never know if you'll win unless you actually try. Glenn finally nods. It's either fight to survive or die right here. Sarah isn't convinced. Swarming through a dozen wolves just to reach the king sounds like a total nightmare. Colin cuts in. Trust me on this. He tells them an opportunity is going to present itself very soon. Suddenly, the Wolf King lets out a massive roar that shakes them to their core. It's an order. The king is telling his pack to tear the team to pieces. Glenn tells his men to prepare. But Colin tells them to chill. They need to draw the wolves in closer. Marvin snaps at him, who gave him the authority to start barking orders. Glenn urges him to calm down. They don't have time for bickering while their lives are at stake. For now, they're just going to do whatever Colin says to survive. Colin turns to Dak and tells him to follow. Dak is completely confused. He hesitates, but Colin challenges him. Is he ready to be a brother his sister is proud of? Those words hit deep. Dak instantly thinks of his sister, Erica. As the wolves charge in, Colin tells everyone to hold their ground. They need to let the wolves get even closer. Once they are exactly where he wants them, the trap is set. Now watch this. Colin tells Glenn to blind them using Sacred Shield. Glenn moves instantly. The second those wolves are blinded, Colin shouts over the chaos at Marvin, telling him to blast them back with that massive heaven-shaking slash. Marvin doesn't hesitate. He leaps high and slams the ground, sending the entire pack flying in every direction. But wait. Colin is 3 steps ahead. He orders Sarah to carve a path using her phantom sword skill. Sarah obeys immediately, her blade tearing through the wolf pack like butter. Glenn is stunned. How does Colin already know their unique skills this well? With the path cleared by Sarah, Colin finally makes his big move. He tells Dak to keep up. Sarah teases the guy again, calling him a puppy and telling him not to fail. As they charge straight toward the massive Wolf King, Dak asks what the plan is. Colin explains that this king relies on scaring his enemies to win. But if someone charges at him with zero fear, Colin is betting that even a king will flinch when faced with pure courage. Dak is still lost. He has no idea what Colin is getting at. Colin ignores the questions. He tells Dak that swords alone won't kill this beast. It hits Dak like a ton of bricks. Colin is going to use magic against the Flame Wolf King. Right then, Colin flares his monolines, prepping a high-level spell. Everything clicks. Colin summons beautiful ice flowers and launches them at the king. Dak is speechless. He really thought Colin was just bluffing about having magic. After the first explosion of ice, Colin mocks the beast, asking if it actually wants to keep going. The king holds its ground, but that just gives Dak the opening he needs. He lunges forward and drives his blade straight into the beast's nose. Nice shot, Colin tells Dak to keep the pressure on. While Dak keeps the beast busy, Colin has all the time he needs to charge one final, massive spell. The Wolf King watches in pure terror as the attack connects. It rips through him like 1,000 blades. The king falls, and the rest of the pack runs for their lives. Dak is still reeling. Colin really is a magic user. Unbelievable. Glenn and the team arrive, thanking Colin for finishing off that monster. Marvin is totally amazed. He can't believe they actually took down something that huge. Colin just shrugs it off, saying, "The plan worked. Honestly, he has no idea what he would have done without them." Sarah spots the ice shards and starts getting suspicious, but everyone else is way too hyped to notice. Marvin laughs, saying Colin reminds him of a young Darius back in the day. Sarah explains that they were all members of the famous Lionheart Knights, and Darius was their leader. After the order broke up, the survivors all became elite knights. Sarah insults Dak again, calling him nothing but an old hag's dog. Dak is fuming. He tells her his name is Dak, not dog, and asks what the heck she even means by that. Marvin leans in and whispers that Sarah calls Katrina an old hag, for reasons only she understands. Dak nearly has a heart attack when he hears that. He can't believe she has the guts to call the lady of the house an old hag. Before long, the two are bickering over whether Sarah is a lady or just a brat. While those two are just messing around, Colin flashes back to how perfectly he and Dak synced up in his past life. Out of nowhere, the mood killer Freed strides in, demanding an explanation. Nobody expected him here, and to be honest, you and I didn't either. Dak and the rest dropped to their knees as Freed claims he sensed a disturbance and rushed over. Then, his eyes lock onto the dead flame wolves. He turns to Glenn, demanding to know what happened. Glenn explains that during their search through the woods, the pack ambushed them, but Dak and Colin stepped in to save the day. That is when Freed finally realizes that Colin is standing right there. Colin was too busy harvesting monster cores to even care about Freed's dramatic grand entrance. Right then, Glenn tells Freed that Dak and Colin were absolutely incredible. He suggests they should definitely report these achievements back to the head of the family. Freed completely panics. If his father hears about Colin's massive success, his own place in the line of succession is totally over. Freed is fuming, but then he spots Dak, and a nasty idea starts forming in his head. He looks at Dak, reminding him that low-rank servants entering these grounds is a massive violation of the house rules. He starts tearing into Dak, saying his sister would be totally ashamed if she found out about his reckless behavior. Colin interrupts, snapping that Dak is a way better man than Freed will ever be. Freed is just a spoiled brat who runs crying to his mother for everything. Colin glares at him, calling Freed the same pathetic failure he has always been. Sarah nearly loses it. She's holding back laughter at the sheer audacity. Freed snaps, he can't believe his ears. Did Colin actually just say that? Colin keeps going, telling Freed that nobody here is kneeling because they actually respect him. He tells him plainly, everyone is only bowing because his mother is the powerful Countess Katrina. The guards and servants are frozen in shock. Colin is being absolutely fearless right now. Colin just smirks, mocking him for acting like a big shot just because he has important parents. Freed snarls, reminding Colin that he could end his life in a heartbeat. Colin just shrugs and agrees. But then the insult drops. He tells Freed he would probably need his mother's permission first. That mocking tone is the final straw. Freed has officially reached his breaking point. He screams for his men to seize Colin and throw him into restraints. Suddenly, a group of masked men materialize out of the shadows. They instantly bind Colin in heavy chains, pressing a sharp blade against his throat. Sarah and her team recognize these guys immediately. This is bad news. It turns out these guys are professional assassins and expert infiltrators serving under the Countess's own powerful family. Sarah admits these guys are walking nightmares. Even high-ranking nobles tremble when they hear their name. She cannot believe the Countess actually sent these monsters to play bodyguard for Freed. Glenn drops to his knees in a panic, begging Freed to stop, since Cornell himself sent Colin and Dak to help them. Freed whips around, glaring at Glenn and asking if he is a traitor too. That intense question leaves poor Glenn stuttering. Seeing the situation spiral, Colin calmly tells Glenn to just stay out of this, orders him to scram and deliver the results of the investigation report straight to Darius. Sarah catches on fast. Colin is actually clearing a path to help them all escape. Since they can't choose a side, Sarah suggests they should just back off quietly. Glenn takes the hint. He humbly backs off, leaving Freed with all the control. Freed starts mocking Colin, gloating that the guy is helpless and his life is literally in Freed's hand. Colin just sneers back, just kill me already and stop wasting my time. A wicked smile creeps across Freed's face. He has a twisted idea and calls for Dak. Handing Dak his weapon, he warns that every action comes with consequences. The command is simple: pick up that sword and kill Colin right now. Do this and everything that happened before, consider it all forgotten. Back in his past life, an incident happened exactly 1 month before the demon invasion. Colin and Dak were caught by orcs. After some brutal torture, things got worse. The Orc King decided it was time to do something fun. Dak is restrained and the Orc King gives Colin a choice: kill your friend with your own hands or everyone else dies. Standing there with the sword, Colin had to choose between hundreds of lives and his very best friend. As Colin approaches with the sword, Dak starts pouring his heart out about his tragic past. He reveals that his little sister is the only family he has left in this world. Darius took him in. But Katrina gave the order, and Erica was shipped off to the Williams family estate. Hoping his sister is safe wherever she is, Dak begs Colin to look after her and protect her after his demise. He mentions she is a picky eater, but tells Colin not to overspoil her too much. He also pleads with Colin to tell his sister that he became a true knight. Hearing that heartbreaking story, all Colin could offer was his sincerest sympathy. But now in this life, the roles are reversed. This time, Colin is the one on the receiving end of the sword. Freed spots Dak shaking. "Why are you hesitating? Just get it over with already." Dak stammers, "Without Colin, they would all be dead. He can't just kill his benefactor. How can he execute the man who saved all their lives?" Freed sees an opening and starts playing on Dak's emotional side. Think about how disappointed Erica would be if she found out her brother gave up her life for a total stranger. Dak tries to fight back, arguing that he would never do such a thing. But Freed isn't done. He mentions some news about Erica from a few days ago. It turns out the poor girl was starving herself just to save up for a sword for her brother. In fact, she actually collapsed from total exhaustion thanks to this. Hearing this, Dak's spirit just completely shatters into pieces. Freed adds that he will have no reason to look after Erica if Dak can't even do this one simple task. Dak drops to his knees, sobbing. He begs Colin to save his sister. Freed gives the final order: "Kill Colin if you want your sister to stay safe." Suddenly, Colin starts laughing like a complete maniac, catching Freed off guard. He asks Colin what is so funny, and Colin boastfully claims that he could never die at the hands of some coward. Colin suggests that Freed allow him and Dak to engage in a fight to the death instead. He convinces Freed. This beats watching Dak mope around the house like some kind of loser. Freed is forced to think about the situation for a minute, and realizing he has nothing to lose, he agrees to it. He orders the assassins to let Colin go so that he and Dak can fight. Once he is loose, Colin pulls his blade on Dak, which catches him completely off guard. Dak is totally baffled. Is this for real or just part of a crazy show? Dak stands paralyzed. Fred lights a fire under him, demanding he doesn't let his sister down now. Those words repeat as Colin suddenly charges at him with a lethal sword strike. Dak barely dodges, blown back by Colin's incredible speed and some insane power. Colin stays aggressive, keeping Dak stunned. Right then, Colin admits he has no choice but to fight because he absolutely refuses to die here too. Hearing that truth, Dak finally locks in, parrying the attack and forcing Colin to back away. Colin arrogantly claims he'll finish this whole duel in 3 moves. Dak snaps back, saying he won't need 3 moves, just 3 quick seconds. They size each other up before making their final move. They lunge forward, and as they pass, Colin whispers, "Don't forget your comrades." Blades lock hard, giving Dak a moment to process those words. Colin mentions something that Dak holds very close to his heart. Now on the same page, the two glide past without actually cutting anyone. Suddenly, though, they unleash a massive slash, creating a whirlwind that blinds everyone including Freed. Freed's confused until Colin suddenly drops from above, attacking him now. But Freed successfully blocks using magic. Colin's surprised the guy actually has guts. Freed roars, blasting him with lightning, yelling not to underestimate him. The assassins try to intervene. Freed yells at them to stay back now. Freed unleashes everything, terrifying Dak, who knows what is happening. Simultaneously, the Grimoire warns Colin. Colin realizes this whole situation just got complicated. He checks Freed's stats, intermediate lightning magic. This is not easy. His magic talent is intermediate tier, but beginner swordsmanship. Warning, with such low magic resistance, Colin can't survive a direct hit from this. Colin's heart definitely sinks. But he's not about to run away. He pushes forward while Fred rants and yells at him, threatening to show the gap in power. Freed lets lightning loose. Colin summons an ice shield, causing a huge explosion that scatters dust. Fried is left speechless because he can't believe Colin just used actual magic. Staring at the ice shards, he's stuck in pure denial. The dust clears, revealing Colin standing tall despite minor scratches. Colin taunts him, asking for more. The servants are horrified, he actually survived. All right, things are heating up as Fried's starting to realize that Colin definitely used magic, but he just can't believe it. He won't accept it. There is no way a mere slave like Colin has this kind of magical aptitude. Furious, he starts channeling a massive high-level magic attack. Colin braces himself, ready to block the impact. But bad news, the Grimoire warns him that his mana is completely dry. He can't use magic right now. Colin collapses to his knees. He knows he is a sitting duck. Before he can even react, Fried's lightning strike blasts him with full force. He screams in agony as the electricity sears through every nerve. Is this it? Is he really going to die again after being given a second shot at life? Desperate to live, Colin starts tapping into every ounce of energy he has left. The Grimoire sees this and flashes a lethal warning. Forcing magic without mana is suicide. It will make him go completely berserk. Colin doesn't care. He's not about to just sit there and be killed. He pushes past the limit. Suddenly, a dark aura erupts and he transforms into a literal cyborg. His stats skyrocket. Even the system can't track how insanely high his magic power is climbing. The screen glitches out. Strange, unknown figures appear. Colin clutches his head in pain, wondering what's happening to his body. Whatever, he decides to ignore the pain and unleash this power before time runs out. Colin lunges at Fried, who is completely overwhelmed by the pressure. Fried desperately puts up a barrier to stop the charge. Colin shatters the defense instantly. His sword nearly takes Fried's head clean off his shoulders. Fried barely dodges, but there is no breathing room. Colin is already back on the offensive. Every single strike gets faster and more lethal. Fried manages to leap away, but his horse isn't so lucky. It's sliced down in a flash. Fried keeps jumping back to avoid the onslaught. But here is the thing, Fried soon notices that Colin is already gassing out. Time for a counterattack. He summons a lightning shield. But Colin tears through that shield like a wild beast. He is on him instantly. Fried's life flashes before his eyes. Just as the blade is about to pierce his throat, a massive golden shield blocks the hit. The blow is repelled. The savior is actually Fried's father. Darius scolds them both. This is a hunting ground, boys, not some gladiator arena. If they want to kill each other so badly, they can wait until they are back home. Seeing that things have calmed down and he's safe, Colin's body finally gives out. He collapses. A few days later, Colin wakes up, and his mind immediately remembers that strange cyborg form. He bolts out of bed to check his body. Thank God, he's back to his normal human self. Right then, he hears Dax welcoming him back to the living. Colin screams in shock. Dax looks pale as a ghost. Once he calms down, Dax explains he's been out since the Fried fight. Plus, Glenn carried him back, and Sierra. She told the doctors she'd kill them all if Colin didn't make it. Colin gets up, realizing he actually feels completely refreshed. He decides, it's time to go thank Sierra and the gang for saving him, and maybe find some lunch. Colin actually stops to thank Dak for the backup. Dak is floored, who knew this guy actually had manners hidden somewhere. Walking through the mansion, Colin feels every eye on him, like he is some kind of walking ghost. He catches some maids gossiping about the Fried incident and decides to corner them for some real answers. Suddenly, the girls bolt like they have seen a phantom. Colin just sighs and blames Dak for it. Claims his partner's pale, ugly face scared them off. Dak snaps back immediately. He spent the whole night watching over Colin's unconscious butt instead of sleeping, so he's not taking that disrespect. The two are bickering when the bald captain crashes the party. Stick with me, it's about to get wild. The bald captain tries to cut in, but they both scream at him to shut up and stay out of their business. Talk about perfect timing. The guy is visibly shaken, but once he gets his nerves back together, he announces he is here to settle the score from their clash the day before. Colin has zero clue what he is talking about, so the captain claims he only won by catching him off guard. But this time, he is fully prepared. He swears things will be different. Colin just stares, trying to figure out what this guy's deal even is. The captain pulls a dramatic finger snap, but absolutely nothing happens. He spins around to yell at his men. They were supposed to jump in right on that cue. Too bad for him. His men remember exactly what happened last time they angered Colin. And on top of that, they heard about the fight with Freed. They are not about to volunteer for a trip to the hospital. The captain realizes his crew is absolutely spineless, but his massive ego won't let him back down now. He grabs Dak by the collar instead, accusing him of betraying Freed like a coward. He threatens to drag Dak right to Freed for some serious, painful punishment. He tries to throw a punch, but Dak catches his fist midair. He tells the guy he has zero right to judge anyone's loyalty. He shoves the captain to the dirt, leaving him completely stunned. Suddenly, Glenn and his squad show up, demanding to know what all the noise is about. Seeing the elite knights, the captain thinks Colin and Dak are finally toast. These guys are the real deal. He puts on a fake smile while bowing to Glenn. Glenn asks for the story, and the dude reveals that he was just about to teach Colin a lesson for being insolent. Then it happens. Colin just waves and greets the knights like old friends. The captain is about to explode in pure rage. Out of nowhere, Marvin steps in and just slaps the captain right out of the way. The guy watches, horrified, as Marvin and Sarah start treating Colin like their best buddy in the world. The captain desperately hopes this is all a nightmare. He starts screaming about how elite staff shouldn't be playing with low-level trash. He claims it is a total violation of the rules. Sarah, she makes it very clear they don't give a damn about whatever rules Katrina came up with. She warns him to shut his mouth unless he wants to lose his other eye too. Brutal. Colin walks off with Glenn's squad, laughing as he tells the captain that he just lost. Again. The whole group heads to a tavern to celebrate together. Colin tries to thank them, but honestly, it feels like they just saved him again. We love to see it. Glenn just smiles. He tells him he's their savior. Sarah just adds that they never liked that bald guy anyway. Dak asks if they have a past together, but this makes Sarah immediately snap, declaring she does not want to hear another word about that man. Dak instantly backs off, apologizing for even bringing the subject up. Right then, Glenn offers Colin and Dak positions as elite knights, since only 3 are currently left standing. Dak nearly loses it upon hearing this. He never dreamed of reaching such a high position. However, Colin admits he has zero interest in being an elite knight. See, he has far bigger plans. The others realize exactly what he means right away. He is aiming for the top, to become Lord of the House. Marvin tells him to drop the Lord fantasy. He warns Colin not to get arrogant just because he beat Freed with weird sword skills. Marvin makes it clear that Freed is not his only competition. Then Sarah cuts in, calling Marvin an idiot for thinking that was actual swordsmanship. She hits the nail on the head, stating that what Colin used was magic. And she is certain he used magic to kill the Flame Wolf King, too. Marvin refuses to believe it. How could a former slave ever have access to magic? Glenn turns to Colin, demanding an explanation. And Colin starts sweating. He was already terrified that they would figure this whole thing out. But luckily, he had already prepared a story just in case. Before he can even speak, Sarah jumps to a wild conclusion. Colin must be a former noble. She grabs him, claiming she can sense his true nature, spinning a tale about him being a persecuted illegitimate noble, child forced into slavery by some conspiracy. She decides his goal is to reclaim his lost status by joining the House of Darius. Dak is stunned by her imagination, but here is the truly shocking part. Colin just rolls with it, telling Sarah she has completely seen right through him. Sarah is thrilled to be proven right. And Glenn starts cursing the nobles of the empire. Colin begins his fake performance, claiming he was once a noble from the city of Isle. He says a conspiracy ruined his family, leaving him with no choice but to become a slave. As he tells this lie, Colin even starts shedding some fake tears. Vowing that he will never let the tragedy break him, He plans to make those nobles pay. The story is so emotional that Marvin and Sarah actually start crying for him. They offer nothing but sympathy, while Dak just watches this madness from the back. Since Sarah and Marvin were dumb enough to believe the lie, Dak is certain there is no way Glenn would fall for such a story. To his absolute shock, it looks like Glenn is buying it too, as he promises to keep Colin's past a secret, provided he stays out of trouble. But then, he warns Colin never to use magic around Katrina or Freed. Colin quickly agrees to the terms. Finally, Glenn mentions that Darius wants to see Colin in his office as soon as he is awake. As Dak and Colin head out, Glenn quietly whispers the city of I, showing he doesn't fully trust the story. Meanwhile, Dak admits he is shocked the lie actually worked, but he wants to know why Colin chose Eiley. Colin explains that I is a chaotic melting pot of both good and evil. And to top it all off, Ali is far from Rai. This means investigating things won't be easy for our duo at all. Colin laughs. That noble story, it is the perfect way to deceive everyone. But Dak is not convinced. He flashes a strange sign and asks if Colin recognizes the three-legged crow. He is desperate for a real answer, not just another trick to fool the masses. We jump back into the past. Colin had saved Dak by slaying an orc. He told Dak to live and tell his sister those sweet stories. Then Colin charged the orc leader. But a water shield blocked his path. The beast traps Colin inside the sphere, leaving him gasping for air. The orc king starts gloating about his supreme power. But Dak appears right below him, a cold reminder that the fight is far from over. The surprise ruins the king's focus. Dak coming out of nowhere breaks his concentration. That opening is all Colin needs to pierce the defense. The duo tears through the Orc King with absolute ruthlessness, their teamwork simply on another level. With the boss down, they unleash absolute chaos. They slice through orcs like butter, all while bickering over their messy tactics and failed plans. Dak yells at Colin. He claims the hostages should have come first, not his own life. Colin fires back. Those orcs would have slaughtered the captives no matter what they did. Dak still wanted a signal, a heads up so he could at least prepare for the madness. Colin insults him. How could he shout a secret plan in a war zone? The hostages just watch them, completely baffled. During their spat, Dak makes that weird gesture again. It is the sign of the three-legged crow. He learned it from a man named Rowan during his dark days in the Slave Association. It is a secret code, a way to find allies who will always have your back. Back in the present, Colin admits he knows the sign, but the person who taught him is already long gone. That man was his stubborn best friend from another life. Dak is stunned. He doesn't remember knowing anyone like that back when he was a slave. Soon they reach the waiting room. Darius is already there, standing tall and waiting for them. Darius checks on Colin. Colin thanks him, confirming he's finally back to 100% strength. Darius has a specific reason for calling them. There's a reason for this meeting. It is all about the chaos at the hunting grounds. Dak tenses up. He is convinced they're in huge trouble now. He expects a massive lecture for trespassing on forbidden territory without any permission. Darius approaches them softly. He explains his deep bond with Glenn and the rest of the team. He gestures to a portrait. It shows him and his comrades in their younger days. They have survived countless hells together. Those life and death moments made them who they are. That shared history is their most precious bond. He can't imagine a world where he loses his brothers. Since the boys saved his friends, he has to offer them his sincere thanks. Dak tries to apologize. If they had noticed the danger sooner, things wouldn't have escalated so badly. But Darius stops them. They did nothing wrong. It was his job to foresee the monster attack. The responsibility lies with him alone. Finally, he asks for their answer. Will they accept the offer and join the elite knights at long last? Colin speaks up first, but he surprisingly turns the humble offer down. Darius turns his gaze toward Dak. Poor Dak is completely shell-shocked by the offer. He starts stuttering, saying they should pick someone way more talented. But Colin interrupts, reminding Dak that the Lord is just asking him for his heart's deepest desire. Suddenly, Dak yells out what he really wants. He wants to join the elite knights. With that settled, Darius turns back to Colin, ready to hear his demands. But Colin's request, it catches both Dak and the Lord off guard. He wants Erica transferred back to the Hall estate, away from those Williams family members. Darius is stunned. Wait, what? Colin explains that Erica and Dak have been inseparable since before they even joined the Hall family. Since Erica is so frail, Colin knows Dak just wants his sister by his side again. Darius asks if that is really all he wants. Colin just nods. He and Dak are brothers in arms who fought back to back. They are true friends. Colin makes it clear, he simply can't turn a blind eye to a friend's pain. Dak is left totally speechless. He can't believe Colin would use his wish for him. Even Darius is touched. It is rare to see such genuine loyalty between comrades. Darius agrees, though he warns it might take time since the Williams family won't let her go easily. With his word given, Darius dismisses Dak. As the man walks out, his mind is spinning. Why would Colin go that far? Now finally alone, Darius brings up the arena. He remembers seeing Colin tank that massive magic attack with ease. He knew right then that Colin was no ordinary slave. But that wasn't the half of it. Seeing him fight for real, Darius knows that power isn't normal. Colin sees exactly where this is going and shuts it down immediately. He insists he is nothing special, letting out just a tiny flicker of magic as proof. He plays it off like he is just some amateur hobbyist. Colin looks Darius in the eye. To a grandmaster mage like Darius, he claims to be just a tiny speck. Darius isn't buying it. He demands to know who this kid really is. So Colin pivots. He starts showering Darius with praise, acting honored that a legend would even notice him. Then he draws his sword. He declares his goal is to follow Darius and wipe bloodline supremacy off the map. He drops to one knee. One day, he says, he wants to stand as tall as Darius, maybe even taller. Darius saved his life twice now, and Colin isn't about to forget that debt. He promises to prove his absolute worth during the selection test. After that, Darius can use him however he wants. The Lord actually looks a bit flustered by the intensity. But he keeps his cool and tells Colin he is free to go for now. As Colin leaves, Darius throws out a question about Rowan. Colin just stares back, looking totally lost. Seeing his blank face, Darius tells him to just forget it and get out. Once he's gone, Cornell finally steps out from the shadows of the room. Darius asks his hidden witness what he really thinks of our mysterious protagonist. Cornell's verdict: if Colin is truly ordinary, then he is the biggest genius he has ever seen. Plus, Cornell points out Colin's blank reaction to Rowan's name. Clearly, he's not from the city of I. Still, they can't let their guard down. The guy might be hiding a massive hidden agenda. Cornell then drops the news to Darius. A message just arrived from the spirit cat. Darius is dying to know what secret intel that cat actually brought. Back at his place, Colin realizes Darius secured all his hunting loot because of that solid favor. He traded the goods for a massive mountain of survival supplies. With this haul, Colin is certain his stats are about to skyrocket. But Rowan is still on his mind. He only knows that name from Dak in his previous life. Other than a name, nothing. He's got zero intel, so he decides to grill Dak for answers later on. Right now, power is everything. He needs to grind before the big selection test begins. He melts a monster core in a vial and chugs it down before firing up the Grimoire. With the Grimoire active, Colin starts downing one potion after another. Once he feels he has had enough, he starts the absorption. Mana tears through his body, making his veins feel like they're going to explode. Seconds later, the Grimoire pings. Absorption successful. His total magical power just jumped up by 1 point. He figures it out. Mixing wolf cores with Jade Emperor grass is the secret to gaining mana. That's what the Grimoire said anyway. But even the top-tier medicine only lowered his count by 3 points. And some types didn't even give him a single point of progress. It hits him. If his mana bottoms out again, he'll go full berserk just like before. Until he figures out how to boost his magic resistance. His only option is to keep stacking his magic power. Colin brews another batch, but the taste is so foul it nearly kills him. Then it hits him. Chugging potions in bulk is a terrible idea, because his stomach might literally explode before he ever achieves what he wants. There has to be a better way to level up. Suddenly, the system detects a high-grade core. He can actually forge a magic tool using the Wolf King's monster core as base material. Colin is stunned. He had no idea cores could be turned into actual gear. He jumps in. He follows the Grimoire's lead and begins pouring his raw magic into the beast's core, all while visualizing the exact shape of the tool in his mind. Once the image is set, Colin finally triggers the tool's generation, and a blinding golden light erupts. Moments later, the system confirms that the magic tool is finally complete. Colin looks down and finds a mysterious bracelet wrapped around his left arm. The system labels it the Azure Bracelet, a tribute to the wolves he hunted. This gear's primary effect is to boost his magic power by 1 full point. But it's got a hidden perk too, a special skill called Wild Intuition. He's not quite sure how it works, so he chugs a potion to test it. His magic power spikes instantly. He realizes the bracelet lets him gain 2 points instead of 1. Now he can level his mana way faster, without putting any stress on his body. Colin looks pretty impressed. These magic tools, yeah, they are definitely coming in handy. But he still doesn't know what its special effect can actually do. He clicks it on and suddenly, he can see 2 maids right through the wall. Like total X-ray vision, he sees them clearly and even hears their voices. This completely blows his mind, and Colin actually lets out a shocked scream. But wait, it is not just X-ray vision. It is a skill that lets him see people's raw energy. He starts scanning the area and quickly spots Darius and Katrina hanging out in their room. Parts of their bodies are literally oozing mana, making it clear to Colin that he is looking at pure magic. Out of nowhere, a creepy voice whispers that they are hungry. This gets Colin worried. He starts looking around frantically, wondering where the strange voice is coming from. First is the content creation process. After having an idea, I will create an outline for each part. This is the idea. And this is the outline. After checking the outline, checking this outline carefully, I start writing detailed content based on the outline above. So this is my handwritten script. After I based it on that outline, after having the handwritten script, once this is done, we put it into a translation website. This is our internal translation website. We designed this website specifically